Welcome to Table Tennis Philosophy. It's John Gustafson. Got a special request today. I've pointed out that if you make good comments, you'll get better content. And I am responding to not just a comment, but a phone call with a couple requests, suggestions. The first one, this is for you, Matt. He said I look smarter with glasses on. There you go. I'm not sure how much smarter I could possibly look, but this is what we're going with. All right. I had a request for some more equipment reviews, specifically for the Falck carbon blade, the Yasaka blade that's relatively new, and I have been using it. I own several. I've even recommended it to some other players and given one away. So I'm very, very familiar with this particular racket. And so let's take a look at it. Try not to look at the green sponge there. I'm ahead of the curve on that. On the other side, let's pull that off so it looks a little more like what you would expect here. Okay. I like the straight handle. It's not oversized on the face of the blade. It's actually a really well balanced racket. I've only used the straight handles, so I can't speak for the curved handles or the flared handles, but I can say that at least picking it up, really nice balanced feel, not overly heavy on the head or in the handle. I would imagine if I had a little bit thicker sponge on here, it would be slightly head heavy, but still nicely balanced. I think most players would find it to be a really good feel. And one of the things I noticed that others have said about it, that it's maybe a little bit of a no frills thing. It's not, maybe the edges aren't polished quite as well as you might get from a more expensive butterfly racket or something else, but it works really, really well, and that's the bottom line. So what you're looking at, and the reason I really went for it was that I'd heard that it's a carbon racket. It's fast. It's not ridiculously fast, but it's not going to feel like a carbon racket so much. It's going to have a feel of an all-wood racket. I think that's pretty close to being true, and I don't think that you would, if you went from an all-wood racket and went to this, that you would find it real disruptive to your game. You get a little more speed from the carbon. Apparently the carbon layer is inside there. It's not as close to the outside. You're not going to get quite as much of the high-pitched pingy sound that you get from some carbon rackets. Now, like I said, I bought several of these, and they were slightly different, which you would find. Most people don't buy 3 and 4 rackets to get that comparison. But what I discovered was 2 of them were almost identical. One was slightly lighter, which I like sometimes, so I kind of rotate them around. And but it's not a big difference, and I probably couldn't tell once I get playing. But at least picking them up, the 3 that I've got right now, one of them is slightly lighter, although it looks identical. Why it's lighter, who knows? But one of them that I had did have a little more high-pitched sound, which I really don't like, and ended up giving that to somebody, and my thinking was they use thicker sponge. That high-pitched sound is not going to be as much as it would be when I'm using really thin sponge on the pip side, for sure. So if you care about how your racket sounds, you might be rolling the dice a little bit on that. But overall, if you're using 1.8, 2.0, or max sponge on both sides, that sound is probably not going to affect you much. So pretty much every racket that you'll ever see advertised is going to say either one of two things. It has great control, but it also has speed. Or this racket has it's really fast, but it has great control. It's pretty ridiculous marketing, and every racket, that can't be true for every racket. I would say for this one, it's pretty fast, but it has great control. I hate to say it. The truth is, this probably shouldn't be your starter racket. It's definitely on the offensive side, probably offensive minus if you got down to it. And it's not always just the speed of the racket that makes a difference. It's the control that you have, the ability to go fast or slow. And sometimes if you get an all-around racket, a defensive racket, it'll take considerable effort to get the same speed that you would from an offensive blade. So overall, a Falck Carbon, really, really nice, well balanced, reasonable control. I don't think, I didn't really feel that I lost any control at all. In fact, now I think if I went back to a slower blade, I'd feel that I was having to work a lot harder and probably would feel that I had less control. So where I think it falls is offensive to offensive minus. That seems to be the consensus for most people. It will vary a lot depending on what rubber you use on it. And I'm using Hurricane, a version of Hurricane on the black side. Really nice. It's really great feel. A lot of players are looking at this green rubber and the pips and thinking it's, you know, God help them, they're playing a guy with long pips and green rubber. But the truth is, the Hurricane, it probably has a bigger effect on how my game goes than the pips do. The pips are a nice change of pace, and I use them fairly well, twiddling the racket. But if I slow the ball down with pips, I can really accelerate with the Hurricane on the backhand and occasionally on the forehand, and matched with this carbon blade. It's got a nice feel, a nice sound, and probably as much speed as most players are going to need. So they claim that Matthias Falck uses this, or he went to this after using a different racket. I don't know if that's true. It does have his name on it, so it's a little pricey. I think I was looking at $150 for that particular blade, but if you only buy a blade every few years, that's not a bad investment at all. You could pay more, you could pay a whole lot less, but I would advise you, since it's one of the few pieces of equipment you really need for table tennis, don't cut it short because of price if you possibly can avoid it. I found rackets that were not as expensive that still played really, really well. Not saying you have to go out and pay $150, $200, $300 on a blade. I don't think that's a wise idea unless you really know exactly what you're getting. But I wouldn't hesitate to go with the price that's going for this one, which I believe was around $150. So it's a Matthias Falck Carbon, straight handle, well balanced. All right. There you go. Nice equipment review. I think that gives you a good idea on a reasonable racket for all-around players, offensive players, players that play offense and defense. I think it works really, really well for all of that. So, hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Thanks.